Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. Today I'm going to break down Alright Now by Free. It's an absolutely cracking song, I can't wait to look at it with you. There's a full free PDF that you can download from one of the first two links in the description. If you head to the first link, that'll take you to our private Facebook group. I encourage you to join that, and once you've joined it, you can head to the Files tab, and all of the tabs that I've ever done, you can download there completely for free. If Facebook's not your thing, head to the second link in the description and you can sign up for our email list. And what will happen is every Saturday morning I send you an email with that week's tabs directly into your inbox completely for free. I am currently working on an archive of all my previous lessons that you should be able to access. I'm hoping those will be ready within the next fortnight. So just be patient with me guys, I'm working on it. This is a full 4-page PDF for the whole song that I've written out myself, and it goes into some great detail. And all of the music that you're going to see on the slides for this is directly lifted from this document. I highly recommend that you go get it. So, this is there's three main parts for the song. There's there's that bit, which I'm going to label the verse or the main riff. You've then got the chorus. Which I'll break down in due course, and then there's the solo, which is the third section of this lesson, which we're going to break down as well. Now I think it's worth mentioning before we get going, I've taken the album version of Alright Now from Fire and Water. There's two versions of Alright Now. There's the one on the album, and then there's the single version. I've opted to go for the album version because they've cut the guitar solo short in the single version, and we can't be having any of that nonsense, okay? And if you're practicing along with the record and there's no that starts the solo, you've got the wrong version. So, off the album version, Fire and Water. It's quite easy to find. So this is what we're going to start with. It's all based around sort of A and D and a G chord, but they've got some sort of interesting variations which we'll break down in due course. Now these chords are there's quite a lot of stretches going on here. Just be patient with it, try your best. If you're like this A chord for example, if you can't do that stretch, play a regular A chord. I'd much rather you do that and you participate than not at all, okay? So we're going to break this down, but what I've done is I've broken it up into chunks. Now we're going to play an A chord, which is just your cowboy chord A, but I'm going to bar that with my index finger instead from the D string, 2nd fret downwards, and then I'm going to take my pinky and I'm going to play the 5th fret of the high E string, which that's an A as well. Some people theorise that he plays the 5th fret on the B string as well. I can't make my mind up which one he's doing. We're going to opt for just that one up there. I think you guys will be. It'll come to you a little bit easier just worrying about one note instead of two. We're going to play that with a really short sharp. I'm going to strum the strings, and then can you see this here? This is called a rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the chord, and then with my palm, I'm just going to stop the strings from vibrating. While I'm doing that, I'm going to play the open A string as like a more of a percussive note, and then I'm going to play this funny D variation. Now look at what I'm doing over here. I'm retaining the 2nd and the 3rd fret on the G and the B strings like you'd get in a D chord. But what I'm actually doing is I'm keeping the bar. So by keeping the bar, all I've got to do is tap my middle finger and put it on the 3rd fret of the B string, and then I take my ring finger and I put it on the 4th fret of the D string. It's still a D chord, but this 4th fret just borrows one of the other notes from the chord. We're so used to doing it like this. Paul Kossoff's doing it like that instead, and it's trying to get that sort of. It's really common, like 70s rock figure that a lot of guitarists do. So you've got A. And then I'm going to go back to the shape that I started with. And can you see how there's two rests here this time? Now that doesn't mean you have to touch the strings twice, but what that means is you just have to wait for quite a bit longer. And then you've got another A string, you know, like we have just before the D, which is going to feed into this cheeky little G chord that you're going to see in the next slide. Yeah, I'm just sort of tagging that on at the end. When we sew the two slides together, that'll make a lot more sense. Pause the video and get that under your fingers. We are going to come back to this slide when we glue them together, but if you feel able to, we're having a look at bar 3 of the phrase. Now, bar 3, G sus2 sounds awfully posh. And all we're going to do, we're going to keep this sort of shape, but instead of playing the 4th fret like we did for the D, I'm playing the 5th fret instead. Now, because there's such a stretch there, I'm going to have to kind of sort of do my fingering a little bit differently. So I'm going to work from the highest string to the lowest string this time. Middle finger's on the 3rd fret of the B string. Index finger is on the 2nd fret of the G. And then I'm going to tap my pinky all the way up here, and I'm going to play the 5th fret of the D string. And that's going to create this... It's going to create this really kind of open G sound. Now that's what Cossey's doing on the record. If you can't do this stretch, just play a regular G and it'll sound okay. It won't sound exactly like it, but it'll sound okay. And you're going to do that with 2 downstrokes. And then we get to here where it changes to that D chord that we've done before. And the only thing that's different is rather than using the pinky on the 5th fret, I'm going to use the ring finger on the 4th fret. And I'm gonna strum this. I'm gonna strum this 3 times instead of 2. So you've got dun dun dun, and then at the end of the bar I've got the open. That's more a percussive kind of. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exactly those 2 strings. It could be. You could catch some of the others and it'd sound okay. And then you go back to that A chord to finish. So rather than telling you to pause here, I'll tell you to pause here where you've got them both together. So you've got A, D, A, G, G. It's quite hard to narrate that while you're playing it along. But can you see how, like, actually that G chord that's a bit of a stretch, you've loads of time to get it in the right place, and you don't necessarily. You can kind of have, if you get to this point with that open string, it doesn't really affect this chord, so you can spend all of this time getting ready for this chord here. And just practice going around that. Pause the video and get that under your fingers. If you're feeling good about that, we'll go on to his next section. So that's the main riff. When everybody thinks of all right now, that's what they're thinking of. I'm going to call that the main riff and the verse. And that's, you'll do it the intro twice, then you'll hear Paul Rodgers come in and start singing, and he's going to do that 4 times. We're then going to go into a chorus. Now the chorus looks like this. Now you can see, if you compare the top line and the bottom line, it's pretty much the same thing, except there's an extra bar at the end on the second line, isn't there? And all that means is in the second time round that you play this, you're going to hold that A chord for just a little bit longer. You know, I call them washing lines, the ties that connect the notes. I'm looking bottom right here where it says A5. Can you see how each of those 3 notes has a line that connects it to the one in the next bar? That means you're going to play that A chord and just let it ring out. So let me play you what that looks like and then we'll break it down. So we're going to start with an A5 power chord up the dusty end, okay? We're going to play this A note on the 12th fret of the A string and this E note on the 14th fret of the D string. And I'm going to play that twice. Following that, I'm going to play that 12th fret of the A string by itself. I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to play the 14th fret of the E. I'm then going to take my index finger and play the 12th fret of the E. Yeah, there's 3 single notes there. 2 power chords. And then 3 single notes. You haven't got enough time to put vibrato on that because you're going to a G5 to finish that, which is here. And I'm playing that with the index finger and the ring finger on fret 10 of the A and fret 12 of the D. Pause and get that under your fingers. We are going to glue these together in a second. And then you've got F sharp 5 sharp 5, which sounds like hard work. It's not really. It's a power chord, but it's just a little bit more of a stretch. You know how in the previous slide we were playing 10 and 12 on that G5? What you're going to do is you're going to tap this. You're going to tap this index finger. And you're going to move it down to fret number 9. And it's quite an unusual sounding chord. But then when you play an A5 at the end, it kind of all comes together. So you've got, let me glue all that together. So you've got A5, walk down to G5, F sharp 5, A. And then on the second time, you just let that A ring round for a little bit longer. Let me show you that. And can you see when I'm doing that F sharp sharp 5, 9 to 12, I'm doing this. I'm using my pinky. That's borrowed from something like Born to Be Wild's a great example of that, you know. Or One Vision by Queen. It's got this kind of, he's moving the root note around. Okay then, so we'll start picking the solo part now. So if you are on the correct version, you should hear this guitar lick here. If you don't hear that and it goes straight into the E, you're listening to the single version, not the album version. So just an FYI. Right, so a lot of this is in second position in the minor pentatonic scale, and it's got some really cool ideas. So starting over here where it says solo, we're going to sort of bat between the 10th fret of the B string and the 8th fret of the high E string, and we're going to do that 3 times. Now, what you can do if you want, this note, he's kind of playing with it a little bit. You can sort of do, it's not quite bent, but I'd sort of describe it as a tweak. You can kind of be messing about with it if you want. If you're just getting it under your fingers to start with, it's probably a better idea that you just play it sort of a little bit flatter to start with. So I'm going to go between the 10th fret and the 8th fret, and I'm going to do that 3 times. I'm then going to play the 10th fret of the B for a 4th time, but then I'm going to roll my finger over to the 10th fret of the high E. I'm then going to go to the 8th fret and then back to the 10. So you see how we kind of do we sort of stumble over ourselves here. That's the first bar. Get that under your fingers. And we finished that riff, that sort of section, by playing that 10th fret another time and then going to the 8 and then doing a short, sharp stop. I glue the first and second bar together. I'm going to go to my neck pickup for this. This isn't necessarily how Kossoff's playing it, but I think it might be a bit more pleasant for you guys to listen to at home if I use my neck pickup. We'll talk about tones in a bit, okay? That's better. Going into the 3rd bar, you're going to bend that 10th fret and then you're going to pull off. So there's some really cool little bend licks and stuff in here. I'm then going to play the 10th fret again, 8th fret on the same string, and then double 10 and slide out of it. See how there's a vibrato over here? Before you do the slide, give it a little wobble. I'll play from here. Let me play the whole line. Sorry, we'll do it 3 times. Pause it and get that under your fingers for me, please. If we're okay, let's graduate to the second slide, which is very similar. Basically, the first bar and a half, basically the first 2 bars is the same. But but then we're going to bend the 10. This comes a little bit earlier than it does in the previous slide, so you can bend the 10, and then you're going to do the pull off just the same as we did previously, but it just comes, I think it's a beat or two early. I'm then going to bend that 10 again, and then going to bend the 12. Now it's a little bit of a... Now that's a tone and a half bend, is that, which is quite far away. And then I've got those two notes that we've been banging on about for ages, and then one big like final bend from the 15th fret, full bend, up to the A note, and you'll hear the bass come in, which we'll talk about in a second. It's a really odd kind of grouping of notes, and it took me a minute to get, but it sounds really cool, and it's just a variation on what we've previously done. Okay? Following that, you'll then come across in the PDF what's labelled bass. Now that's the last for 4 bars. I want you to just kind of take a breath in this and prepare for the next section. Now the next section is not really a solo, but more a kind of instrumental section, but it has got a couple of bends and a couple of cool bits in it. And I want you to play this with far less intensity than you did for that bit, okay? So we're going to play the 2nd fret of the G string, it's an A note, we're playing the root, and we're going to hold it for a full bar. And I'm giving it loads of vibrato. And what we're going to do, we're going to bend between 2 and 4. Twice, not bend, we're going to slide. I'm probably going to use my ring finger and then come back. So you see I'm sliding between 2 and 4, holding it for quite a while. I'll do it fairly quickly, and then as we start the next bar, I'm going straight back. That's bars 2 and 3 there. And then we echo that in this 4th bar. This is at the very last bastion of the bar, even though the formatting doesn't lead you to believe it. But I think with this, ironically, it took me far less time to transcribe than it did this, just to get the feeling in the right place. Da, 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 da. That's what I'm singing in my head while I do it, okay? You're then going to go up the octave. Now, this little high E note feels really weird until you get it in the right place, and then now I can't unhear it now I've put it in the right place. So I'm going to slide between 3 and 5 on the B, and as soon as I've done that, I'm going to pick the high E string with an upstroke. And then I'm going to slide up again from 5 to 7, but can you hear how I'm letting that E string ring out? And it creates these lovely overtones. Now you'd be tempted, oh, there goes my pick. You'd be tempted to put another high E string in between those two dudes. Please don't. And that's not a pull off. That's a slide. Okay. Let me just grab my plectrum. It's all live here, folks. So, 3, slide up again, and then back down. And can you see how we basically do the same riff twice? We move on to the next bit. We're going back to... Now, what I'm doing there is I'm sliding in from 2nd to 4. I'm then taking my pinky for the high E string, 5th fret. I'm then going to play the 4th fret. I'm going to bend it up and bring it back down. Can you see how the line goes up, but then comes back down? That's telling us to bend it up to pitch and then bring it back down. And then I'm going to play the 2nd fret and give it loads of vibrato. And then we're going to do the same between fret 8 and fret 10. And you see, this is all the vibrato. I want you to have a little bit of gain on your guitar and be really trying to coax as much kind of sustain out of it as you can. And then we've got this cool little which is really cool. Now, I just hesitated there for a second, and I'll tell you why. The 10th fret, the crux to getting this is having the middle finger on the 10th fret of the B string, because that means that you can then sort of do that little hammer, right? So you pick the 10 by itself to start the sequence. This 10 here in brackets is grandfathered in from you're holding the previous note. So I'm actually starting from the 9. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do like a little bar on the 9th fret of the G and the B strings. I'm then also going to keep my my middle finger on the 10th fret of the B string. Now those two notes, those two fingers are static for the whole bar. The only thing that's moving is my ring finger. And I find by sort of flattening the index finger, it's going to make that a little bit easier for you to just kind of keep hold of the note. If you're trying to do it on the tips of your fingers, I feel a load of tension in my forearm, and it's going to be really uncomfortable to play. So flatten that finger a little bit, and it's going to help you mute this string as well. And I'm hammering on from 9 on the G to 11 with a downstroke, and then I'm going to pick the 10th fret with an upstroke. You're going to do that 4 times, and then you're going to do a big bend. And then you're going to do it 5 times in bar 3. You can hear where it's going after that, can't you? And you see the vibrato on the bends. While it's up there, I know it's really tricky. Try and give it a little wobble. Then you've got 10th fret, 12th fret of the B string. I'm picking it, bending it up, bringing it down. Middle finger on the 11th fret of the G. And then resolving to this A note here. And he does it 3 times. So then to finish that section off, we've kind of got a similar thing, and we did the it's similar kind of vibe, but we're going to go right up to the dusty end, and we're going to play between 17 and 20. Now, as you can see, I'm sort of, even though with the comfort cut, I'm struggling to get up here. I'm using my index finger and my ring finger, and I'm hammering between 17 and 20 on the B with a downstroke, and then I'm doing an upstroke on the 17 fret of the high E string. I'm barring the 17. You hear that, yeah? Now I'm going to do that for a full bar. And a full bar in triplets is in sort of groups of 3. It's 5 times, and then I'm going to bend the B string, and then I'm going to go. I've got that again, but I'm going backwards, and then I'm going to bend the 20th fret of the high E string, and then pull off, and then back to 20. You hear how it's really hard not to pick this note when you're going between the 20 and the 17. You bend it, and then pull off to the 17, back to the 20, and then 20th fret of the B string. Then you're going to bend the 20th fret again, and then you're going to play the 17th fret of the high E. That then ties into another round of. So it's proper up there, And you've got to have a good grip of the notes. So this bar's identical to what we've just covered, and so is this bar, so that it follows patterns. And then we're going to bend the 20th fret of the high E string. We're going to do it twice. And then we're going to sort of start coming out of it now. We're going to go 20, 17, 20, 20th fret of the B string. And then we're going to start this walk down. 20th fret of the B. So he says that's not the 20th fret. 20th fret of the B, we're going to bend it. Then we're going to play it as normal. We'll play the 19th fret with the middle finger and then the 17th fret on the same string. And that's kind of, we're doing this like walk down. Da, 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 da. And then we're going to play it one more time. Now, I know there's a lot there that I've just covered. How I do this in the lessons, do it at home. Take a right little bit, make it this big, and go, right, I can do that bit. I'm going to bolt the next bit on. Let's do that. I'm going to bolt the next bit on and do that, okay? Really, 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 really important for the self-study. And it might feel like I blasted through that. Please use the chapters feature to go back and do whatever bits you need to do. So from that point, we then go back. We're nearly there at the end of the song. We go back to the bit that everybody knows. We do that 6 times. Now you're going to do it twice as an instrumental and 4 times as the final verse of the song. And then following on from that, you've got a chorus which is repeats 8 times. And that's going to repeat 8 times up until the song more or less fades out. I'm pretty sure it fades out. Now, can you see how it's like 3 main bits, but the solo is the biggest chunk of that song? So break it down into smaller chunks. If you can't get the stretches, do your best to sort of try and come up with your own way of doing it, or play just the regular cowboy chords. It's much more important that you do that and you take part rather than not at all. Tones, Paul Kossoff famously used Gibson Les Paul, a 59, or is it 58? Correct me in the comments, I think it's a 59. Les Paul burst into a Marshall. I'm using my 82 standard into the Fender Princeton with a Boss Super Overdrive, which I'll show you the settings in a second. On the guitar, I've got everything on 10 and I'm using the neck pickup. Now, I'm using plenty of volume, but not loads and loads of gain. If I turn up the gain too much, it'll get fizzy and you want to be able to hear the articulation. You want to hear the sparkle of those top strings, and that's part of his sound. It was the same in the Wishing Well lesson that I did a couple of weeks ago. You want to be able to hear the strings vibrating, which sounds ridiculous, I know. You want to be able to hear the treble of the high strings. If you have too much overdrive, you start to lose that as it starts to compress. So you want less is more, but it's played with quite a lot of attack. Okay. The Fender Princeton, I've got the treble on 7 and the bass on 3 and the reverb on 3. Quite a lot of treble. Like I said earlier in the clip, if you're struggling, if it's quite sort of like tinny and quite nasally for the solo, go to the neck pickup. Again, everything on 10 and it'll sound great. I'm using the Boss SD1 today to get that tone, so let's have a look at that, and I'll show you the settings for that as well. Have a look at that. The Boss SD1. I love this pedal. This is my favourite overdrive pedal of all time. And it's really straightforward, really easy to use, and it gives you some great tones. So just a reminder, folks, head to the first or second link in the description and go get this. You'll need it. Make a cup of tea, go through it with a pencil. It's well worth your time. I'll see you next week for another electric guitar lesson. Thank you so much.